I'm super excited to talk to a guy who covers the NBA at an elite level. He, of course, is senior writer at Sports Illustrated. He just wrote a piece on the Kings last week, put a couple of cool pieces on the Kings. He's the one and only Chris Herring. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm really good. I owe you an apology. I lost complete track of the time, and I was supposed to have joined you much earlier, so I really apologize for that.
Oh, you're totally fine. You're busy. It's probably more important than what we're doing here. We're just hanging out. So you're good, man. We're happy to have you. I'm glad you're here anyway. I'm curious. You just put out that story about the Kings last week. I loved it. What inspired you to write about the Kings?
Um, I'm like anybody else, or maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I take interest in stuff that doesn't happen much. I've got my telescope sitting outside and look for comets and whatever else or eclipses, and frankly, those happen more often than the Kings make the playoffs these days. So I wanted to, I wanted to be there,
so
and
true.
if I'm being honest, I mean, I reached out to the Kings PR staff in November, really interested to take a trip. I was about 15 minutes away from boarding a plane to head out there before my editors kind of shouted at me for not following protocol to run all my travel by them first. But I was really excited then when they looked to be, if not legitimate, if not 2 seed level, then just maybe they'll be 500. And I think that's noteworthy for them too. They've looked like the most fun team to me all season. The irony for a while is that I think the only team that was even in that stratosphere for a while was Indiana, where obviously Tyrese Halliburton got traded.
Sure.
But they were really fun too for the same reasons to start the season. And, the fact that they've held that up and actually kind of extended their lead for, a home court advantage seed or something like that only speaks to the fact that this is a really noteworthy team. It's kind of caught me off guard that more people aren't talking about them. But I think people, especially if you looked at the Kings' second half schedule, were expecting them to kind of fall off a little bit, particularly, how much they struggle on defense, particularly the schedule getting harder. Sabonis not having a whole lot of depth behind them, but they haven't. To the credit of Mike Brown, to the credit of Fox, Sabonis, everybody else, they have continued to be the most fun team in the NBA to watch. So it's been a pleasure to watch them so far.
What's made this Kings team so much fun to watch for you?
I mean, them kind of daring defenses to stop them, for starters. I mean, they are exhausting to, obviously, for defenses to stay with. De'Aaron Fox was probably someone that never lost a race as a kid, and just unfair that he can run faster with a basketball than probably most people can, just straight up. So there's that, and I think it's, credit to Kings fans, and I think to the front office in general, that you make a trade like the one you make involving Tyrese Halliburton, which, for this year, it has been really nice for the Kings to do what they've done. But I imagine the minute that the Pacers start to win at a higher clip, and if the Kings don't, I'm sure there will be people saying we shouldn't have done that.
Sure.
And that's coming. And even talking to Monty McNair, I think he probably knows that sort of thing is coming if it happens. But the fit between Domantas Sabonis and Kevin Huerter, the fit between Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray, who I find it fascinating that Keegan Murray did not play in an offense that used handoffs at Iowa. Yet, if you look at his numbers and how he performs off handoffs, he's basically the most efficient shooter in the league, a little bit more so than Steph Curry, a little bit more than Huerter in a rookie season where he's just kind of learning the system. But these are guys flying off of Domantas' shoulder, and Domantas just hitting guys. And then when Domantas is in the paint by himself, normally with a lot of real estate, daring guys to kind of try to stop him one-on-one when that's kind of what he wants. And so it's just kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Pick your poison sort of offense for this team. A lot of spacing, a lot of athleticism, a lot of speed, a lot of screens. And it's a different way to kind of accomplish some of the same stuff that the Warriors do, quite frankly. It's not lost on me that Mike Brown came from there. What is lost on me a little bit, and I think lost on him, is that he's a defense-minded coach. And I don't think anybody's really expecting the Kings to take off offensively and still struggle defensively, but that's the shape of the season for them. And it's been very interesting to watch.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, especially being in Sacramento, we're both born and raised in Sacramento. So not seeing playoffs in 16 years has been crazy. And the fact that
Sure.
going into this year, I think our expectations were like, all right, well, maybe play in, have a chance for a top 6. And we are here in March talking about the fact that the Kings are the #2 seed and can they actually hang on to it? It's weird to have that type of jump in 1 year. And I think it's even more strange the Kings were not a good offensive team last year. I think they were like 24, 25th in offensive rating. And now they've got the best offensive rating in league history. It's kind of absurd, the story with this team this year. Do you think that this team could win a playoff series?
I think they can. First of all, when you talk about how absurd it is and how weird it is, it's also very weird to have a team. And I put this question in front of Monty and also in front of Mike Brown, that it's not often that you have to ask whether a 2 seed potentially can win a series.
Sure.
But it's also part of the reason that you are going to hear more. I would say give it another 2 weeks as stuff starts to settle in a little bit more with the standings. You're going to hear plenty of stuff about teams wanting to target the Kings for a playoff series, because that is, generally speaking, teams that don't have experience aren't going to go that far in the playoffs. And I expect that to happen. They do not play good defense for the most part. And so playoff defenses normally tighten up. What does that look like for the Kings? No one's going to want to have to play against their offense. That part is true. I was saying a couple days ago that because I used to cover the Knicks in New York for the Wall Street Journal, I still follow a lot of fans from their fan base just to kind of stay plugged into what they're thinking, what they're saying, to know, when they're really angry about something. And watching the game Thursday night with a lot of Knicks fans on my timeline, they were like, what the hell? Like, how, why is Sabonis just killing us? Why does it look like we're running in quicksand, trying to run in quicksand? And people nationally haven't seen this team. They're not on TV enough to do that unless you have League Pass, really. So it will catch people off guard. It has caught people off guard to the extent that people have seen them when their team plays against the Kings. But it is a little bit, there is a little bit of dissonance, just because I do think some of these guys are going to have to avoid the trap that sometimes comes with like being a deer in the headlights. So I thought it was a positive step for them that they played well on Thursday to an extent. They did not play very well in the second half. Mike Brown clearly was not happy that they seem to let their foot off the pedal. They've got possessions where the Knicks are grabbing 6 offensive rebounds or whatever they're doing. He was clearly upset about that. But it's hard to avoid sometimes that kind of deer in the headlights feeling when so many guys haven't been there. I know Harrison has. I know Domantas Sabonis has experienced the playoffs. I know there are other people that have, but it's still a relatively young team. Kevin Huerter, obviously, as well. But it's still a relatively young team. I understand why teams would want to gun for them, but it's also the more distance they start to put between themselves and everybody else vying for home court, I do think that some legitimacy will be there. And the reality is, when you have a record-breaking offense, it's not going to be easy for anybody to stop. And so they will be interesting to watch. And I think there probably are some matchups that could be very advantageous for them if they do make it as a 2 seed.
All right, before I let you go, I want to get your thoughts on the beam. Are you like pro beam? Some people are like, oh, that's corny. I think a lot of people like it, though. Do you like the beam that they fire into the sky?
Can we really harp on an organization, a team, a fan base that hasn't won in 16 years, made the playoffs in 16 years? Like, if they didn't make, if this team wasn't going to make the playoffs, it would still give you guys something to be excited about. So I'm kind of over this like shaming of franchises, teams, particularly ones that have been kind of at the bottom of the barrel for a while. People made fun of the Timberwolves last year and Patrick Beverley and all these guys that were damn near crying when they won a play-in game. I don't mind that. Like, you don't get to talk about Kobe and these people and their authenticity on the court and how much they care on the court, and then when people care, you make fun of them for it. Even the fans that now look really like Nostradamus, the summer league fans that were talking about the 40 wins. I'm happy for them in the same way that I don't care about the teams winning and losing necessarily. I more care about the fans For the same reason that when I covered the Knicks for all those years, I was generally happy for the fans that they got to experience that after a long drought of a team just not being good. And I'm absolutely thrilled for the fans of Sacramento. They deserve it. It was part of why I wanted to go and write the story there. I wrote a book. You could probably see it here on my back shelf called Blood in the Garden about the 90s Knicks. And everybody will tell you when you have success with a book, strike while the iron is hot. And I had book editors, book publishers immediately asking me, like, what's the next book? What are you going to do next? And the Kings were one of the first ones that came to mind because they have such a similar story arc. I did not decide to do that in some ways because I want to stretch myself a little bit and not just do something that kind of falls into the exact same pattern. Maybe at another point, I would love to do that.
Chris, I was going to pitch that to you because 8 winning seasons in 39 years, about to be the 9th winning season. The first 8 of those came all under Rick Adelman. Think about all the losing and the pain and relocation. I mean, I know you're all aware of it, but it's crazy that this fan base is as rabid as they are with the lack of success. And it's just this town's different. I know you hear that a lot about a lot of fan bases in sports. Like, oh, this different type of fan base. It really is. Like, they're insane. It's one sports town, man.
It's a pride in the fact that I think like you said, the team was almost lost to another city. Not more than once, really. There's that aspect. It's a one professional team town. It's in the shadows of a team that has recently kind of reeled off a dynasty. I don't know if you could call it recently, since they're the defending champs. I had people telling me when I talked to them on the phone that in your own airport in Sacramento that they, up until the Kings started to win a little bit this year, they weren't selling Kings gear. They're selling Warriors gear in the airports. There's so much, I wanted to talk specifically for the story that I wrote to fans that had just like, what is it like to take a chance and roll the dice on season tickets? And I talked to someone that I didn't ask him what he makes, but I imagine he didn't make a whole lot. He was an airport baggage handler. And he told me that he spent years trying to talk his wife into getting season tickets. They did it last season. And then last season was last season. And it's like, okay, the money wasn't there to do it. So you kind of took a chance to do it. And then when you did it, the team was so bad. And there was so much stuff going on between the talk of the record being broken for playoff droughts, the Halliburton trade, which at the moment, I get it. I think my own magazine graded the trade as a G and an H because those came after F. So, I understand that fans' reactions, the media reaction was the way it was. How are fans supposed to feel? And then you watch Halliburton do what he's doing. I know Sabonis is a very good player. He fits this team to a T. So I get it. But that sort of stuff, for fans to still be engaged and to still be hungry and thirsty for that, it's why the Beam, I think, is great. And I'm really happy. I'm happy that people can be happy, genuinely. So I'm very happy for the fans. And I tweeted it and I meant it. I plan to be out there for at least a playoff game or two, preferably the first one, just because I think that the atmosphere will be something like I've never seen before.
Well, if you need any tips in Sacramento, we'll meet you at the game. We'll tell you the good coffee spots to go to. We're like, we should work for the city of Sacramento, because anytime our friends in the NBA or other writers come to town, we're like, all right, this is where you need to go. Sacramento's cool, I promise. So,
I've been there before. I was there in the previous era, the previous arena. I'd been to this arena before.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It had just been a couple of years.
Have you been around
a playoff game?
We have to
be different than the playoff game. Yeah.
Oh, and it's grown so much that there's like actually there's no. We'll show you. We'll show you the way, Chris.
I look forward to it. Seriously.
Well, Chris, seriously, nice talking to you. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks, as always, for providing amazing content for people. You do great work. So thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
I really appreciate y'all. And again, sorry for being late. Thank you.
You're fine. You're fine. Thank you so much, Chris. That's the one and only Chris Herring from Sports Illustrated. What a nice guy, too.
I know.